All right, I think we're live. Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending this another informational night town hall, and this one is specifically for the K-5 Virtual Academy, and we hope to be able to provide a lot of information to families, and at the end have some time for questions. So I would just like to take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Ben White. I'm the Director of Curriculum Communication, Innovation, and now Virtual Learning. And I'm also going to be having tonight the Director/Principal of the Vermont Virtual Learning Cooperative, Jeff Renard. And also our Superintendent, John Alberghini, will be here as well for the Town Hall section. So in a moment, I'm just going to overview what the Virtual Academy is all about. And specifically tonight, we're going to be talking about K-5. And after I do an overview of the local view of how this Virtual Academy will operate, Jeff Renard is going to talk specifically about how the VTVLC cooperates with the local district and what that looks like, and even be able to walk us through a little bit of some curriculum in terms of what families can expect for their students to see when they're learning. So the Mount Mansfield Virtual Academy, essentially this is our response to the guidance from the Agency of Education saying that districts should be offering a 100% virtual option for learning for families within our district K through 12. When we thought about what would be the best way to do this, we understood that in order to offer a 100% virtual option, we really needed to have a platform, support, and curriculum that's already been in place in order to do it well and with fidelity. So the Vermont Virtual Learning Cooperative has been doing this for grades primarily 7 through 12, and recently have adopted into working for grades K through 6. And tonight you'll learn more about that, but I just wanted to talk about that language of virtual academy. For us, it's important to distinct specifically in K-8 that these students that are enrolling into this program, even though it's a cooperation with us in the VTVLC, they're very much still our students, and they are very much still the students of the schools that they're coming from. So the Virtual Academy is meant to embody the idea that they are our students, and there is still local support that is available to them, even though that they're receiving primarily all their instruction through a different platform that's partnered with the VTVLC. So the Virtual Academy, just to outline how that looks locally, it is a unique option for families, and it is really something that's truly amazing. We haven't been able to offer something like this in the past, and it has come through from the Agency of Education in the form of guidance, but really it is a very unique option that comes at a great time when we are in unprecedented times and we need to offer options for our families. So it is totally a 100% option that is 100% virtual instruction done from the homes of families. As I mentioned, it's a partnership with the VTVLC, so we are not doing this on our own. Many districts in our region and across the state of Vermont have partnered with the VTVLC and are even using the same type of language of a virtual academy to embody this same ideal that these are our students. The instruction provided is going to be mostly by MMU USD educators for K through 5. It is based on enrollment, so we're really working hard to ensure that we can match up our students that are in K through 5 with MMU USD educators. We've been selecting educators on an interest-based survey locally, and we're feeling very confident that that's going to be able to happen, but there's always the caveat due to enrollment that it could not happen. But for the most part, we are really confident that primarily MMU USD educators specifically for K-5. And then any educators such as Unified Arts and electives would be done through Vermont educators that are also a part of this VTVLC cooperation across the state. The curriculum is aligned nationally to the standards, and it's also been aligned to Vermont proficiency, so it has in some ways been vetted. and the instructional hours are comparable to the hybrid learning model that we're offering as well. Of course, in the spring when we went 100% virtual, we really had to act in a moment, and now we've had the opportunity to really plan for what a true 100% virtual option could look like. So we feel very confident in this. This is going to be a very rigorous and comprehensive model that contains all the content areas as well as offering electives. So what does the VTLVC offer, and what are we offering locally, and how does that fit into the partnership? So as a district, we are providing the educators, and as I said, we're hopeful that we can primarily have MMU USD educators for K-5 core content area instruction. And we're also providing a district coordinator, and in this situation, that would be me, and that is the responsibility of local oversight as well as the liaison between the district and the VTVLC. We're still going to continue to provide supports for families and students, and that could be in the form of if a student was receiving support through a guidance counselor or a social worker or any other support service, we are still going to be able to offer that, and that'll be something that is managed by the local oversight. So there really is still a lot of that connection. And specifically with K-5, since they are in a contained digital classroom, the classroom teacher will be able to treat that whole classroom as their learning environment. So the peers will build community amongst each other, as well as be able to participate in morning meetings with the teacher all digitally in that VTVLC model. And of course, we're going to provide student devices for those students that need devices. For the VTVLC, that partnership is offering the learning management system. So there's a student enrollment system as well as where students will be receiving all their instruction, and that's through Canvas. The online content is coming from the Florida Virtual School as well as eDynamics. And later on in this information meeting, Jeff will talk more about what that looks like. And the teacher in school support is really quite comprehensive from the VTVLC. And that's something that we're really excited because all of our teachers are going to receive a lot of high quality professional learning specific to teaching 100% online. So that's a really great addition to that partnership. So without much further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Jeff Renard, the director/principal of the VTVLC, and let him take you on a journey through what the VTVLC looks like.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Ben. Thank you, everybody, for being here and spending some of your evening with us. I'm very excited to partner with not just MMU USD, but a majority of the districts around the state as we provide this online learning support for virtual academies or for schools. A little bit about myself. I am close to 30-year educator here in the state of Vermont. Started off in career and technical education, gradually moved into online learning to support greater availability and accessibility for online courses. Philosophically, online learning to me really provides an opportunity for students to have a greater access to courses that they would not otherwise receive locally based on their zip code around the state. So in 2009, I created VTVLC as an opportunity to connect students to those learning opportunities and broaden their access to courses and opportunities to learn. Very early on, we started off with about 14, 15 teachers and about 247 students. And now we've served since the inception over 10,000 students around the state. Primarily, as Ben said, in the middle school and high school level. We are very, very excited to be able to have licensing and been able to offer this content for our K-5 schools around the state. And we're really serving in a support role. Again, we've been doing this for over a decade, and you know, there's a huge difference between classroom teaching and online learning. And our teachers, approximately 2014, 2015, were actually instrumental in the process to start what's called the Online Teaching Specialist Endorsement. So that is a specific endorsement that teachers in the state of Vermont have to have in order to facilitate learning with students from a distance. And there's a substantial amount of graduate coursework that teachers do to obtain that. And that is one of the requirements for teachers facilitating in the virtual academy model to pursue and ultimately receive their OTS endorsement. So I look forward to answering questions. Ben, I don't know if this is a good opportunity to jump into content, or you want to wait a little while?
Jeff, I would say we're going to wait for the questions at the very end. We'll have a town hall where people can ask the questions into the YouTube chat. So we'll ask that everyone hold their questions until we get to the town hall section, and we'll let Jeff power through the whole presentation you got.
Great. Well, what I'd like to do now is just kind of share some of the content. Some of the questions that we've been asked at some of these virtual academy town hall meetings is, what's a typical week look like for my child? What does the content look like for my child? And what are my responsibilities as a parent to work with my child? So hopefully I'll address most of those questions up front here as I show you some of the content. Again, pardon me while I share my screen here. This will just take a second. Ben, if you could let me know when that looks good to everybody.
Yep, looks good.
Okay, great. So I want to show you a couple of quick examples. I just picked a first grade class to kind of show you. I've got a couple of different content areas. From the student's perspective, they will be working with, in almost all cases, a single teacher in all of the core content areas. So that includes English, science, math, and social studies. Potentially working with a separate teacher for some of the Unified Arts courses or the specials, which include PE, art. There's a technology course that we're hoping to be able to include in those offerings as well. But from the student's perspective, and I'm in Canvas, we use Canvas for our learning management system and to be able to support the virtual academies. And this is an example of what an English class looks like. Again, very engaging content. I'm just going to go through a couple of courses to show you what it looks like. And then I'll go into the actual course. But in order to do that, I actually have to go into an instructor view. So right now, this is what is called the student view. And then in terms of technology, this is an example of what the technology landing page looks like. And then now I'm going to go into an actual teacher view so that I can get in and navigate the lessons, because students have a process of unlocking assignments as they go through the curriculum. So I'm able to show you much more in this screen. So this is an example of a first grade math class. And you can see from the home page of the class, there's a lot of information that allows students to navigate through the individual modules. But probably most engaging and of pertinent information for parents is the course information page. I'm going to refresh that real quick. Sorry. It's because I was in the student view. So we're going to go into the course information section. And there's a couple things I want to point out here real quick. First of all is this parent guide. One of the reasons why we've been using Florida Virtual Content for the last 11 years is they do a fantastic job of not only preparing teachers with teacher guides and resources, but in the case of K-5 content, they also provide a very comprehensive parent guide for you. And again, parents are partners in the learning process, but a majority of the work that's going to be done in facilitating the content is between the teacher and the student. There will be one-on-one sessions that teachers will have with students at least every other day. And teachers will be expected also to have online office hours so that students can reach out for additional supports as needed. So I want to take a quick look at that parent guide and show you exactly what's in it. Very comprehensive, again, table of contents. They've got information in terms of a sample student schedule and the materials that your child's going to need in order to go through the course. One of the strengths, and this is kind of an aside before I get back into the course, one of the strengths of online learning is really about the flexibility that it can provide both students, teachers, and families, especially at the elementary level. rather than work being indicated by a Monday night's work, Tuesday's work, Wednesday's work. Content is laid out, and best practice for online education is really providing the weekly chunks of work outlined within what we call a pace chart. And that really is instrumental in providing the flexibility that families, students, and teachers need in order to be successful as they navigate through their learning over the course of a week. Where that becomes really important would be if you have multiple children that are trying to access the internet at the same time. They don't necessarily have to be online at the same time. So that enables you to kind of budget the internet connection that you have at home. Another way that could absolutely help families is that if a parent did need, and you'll see some examples where there's printout materials that students are going to need to cut up and do different project-based learning activities, that you're able to do that at a time where it's most convenient for the parent and not necessarily during a set time during the day that coincides with synchronous sessions that the students are going to need to be able to do to have those one-on-one sessions with their teachers. So just panning through here real quick, I want to show you some example information that's in the parent guide. Again, this is included in all of the K-5 courses so that you can really see the types of assessments, how students are going to be and when students are going to be submitting assignments back to their teacher to receive assessment and feedback on how to improve proficiency for each of the topics and standards that are going to be included in the course. There's also sample student schedules. And this is really important because, again, this is probably one of the most common questions that I get asked in these town hall meetings is, so what does my child's week look like? The teachers, because they have one-on-one sessions with students, and there may be an overview of a topic. So for instance, you may be working with a teacher at the elementary level that says Monday is math days, Tuesday is science days. There's some options in here for different schedules depending on what your teacher is going to outline in terms of the workflow. So you can see here, week 2 is a sample schedule. It might be language arts on Monday, math on Tuesday, etc. So a lot of different variety that can really serve individual students and families to really help them be successful in the learning process each week. There's also a list of materials that your child's going to need. Sometimes parents clue right in on that cell phone. Wait a minute, my child at the elementary level needs a cell phone to do their coursework. That's only to take photos of work to be able to submit those assignments to the teacher. If you have a scanner, you have another way to upload a document if it's a Google Doc. Absolutely, that can be done. But cell phones work just as good to be able to take a picture of the student's work to be able to submit that for the assignment. So you can see it's the standard items that would normally be used in a brick and mortar school environment. We do take academic integrity very seriously, even at the elementary levels. Courses are checked for accessibility. That means things like providing transcripts for videos. That is not only helpful for those that are hearing impaired, but it also can help if you're experiencing changes, as I do quite often, changes in internet connectivity. Sometimes my internet works really well, other times not so well. So being able to have those text transcripts to be able to read what's going on in a video can be super, super helpful. There's also a lot of technical information. And again, I'm sure Ben will tell you that there's a variety of different resources that are aimed at helping families be able to have the technology that they need in order to be able to access these courses. So I'll flip back into the course real quick. There's a couple of other components that I want to show you as we go back into the content. And I'm just going to pick a sample lesson here, add and subtract. We'll go into double trouble. And you can see here, the content is very engaging for students. There's a lot of interactive components, but not only is there interactive components, there's also built into every course this speech tool. And that allows me to do a few things. If I click on the text and I highlight the text and I hit the play button.
2x2 and 3x3, the bikes ride around the town in groups.
So you can see not only does it read to you the text to speech on the screen, but it also does highlighting of the text so students can follow along with that. Students can also choose this finger icon up here where I simply
Double trouble.
click on the text in order to read. So students don't necessarily have to highlight the text. They can actually just click on the text and it will come up. There's also a picture dictionary. So if I selected, for instance,
2 by 2 and 3 by 2.
I need to turn that text to speech off. So here,
No word selected. No word selected.
sorry. If I select bikes and
No word selected.
thank you very much. I appreciate that. If I select, let me see if I can do this without selecting the text to speech, and I click on that picture, it will actually come up and show me a word that I'm not familiar with pictorial representations. So there's some great tools embedded into each course that really allows a student to explore and engage with the content much more. Again, I'll just click through a couple of these different modules so that you can see some different components like self-checks, self-assessments that students can do. There's a variety of interactives that students can do, but there's also a full set of printable resources. So if I go into this little filing cabinet, and Ben, correct me if you can't see that on the screen, but there's a pop-up that comes up that says, here's a list of resources for your course. So this includes worksheets that can be printed out. So you can click on the worksheet opens up and I can print that out so I can do offline work. I can also look at resources like the videos that are included in the course and be able to navigate through those, be able to watch those independently. Of course, these are all the resources that are embedded within the module of the course, but this just provides me an easy access to it. So with that, I will stop the presentation and turn it back over to Ben.
Great, thank you, Jeff. That was great. I think it really just shows how comprehensive this curriculum really is. And I'm going to get back onto the slideshow presentation. I'm going to specifically jump down, Jeff, to the supports section. So if that shows up on the slideshow, hopefully. So as we had talked about, I'm the director of virtual learning now. So there's my support, and that's for the local oversight of this program for the families and students. And really what that looks like is making sure that students are staying connected with their home schools. For K-5, they're going to have a lot of that virtual social emotional connection amongst their peers within their classroom because it's a self-contained digital classroom with a hopefully MMU USD educator. We're very confident about that. So there's not going to be that need for a virtual connection to the school, but there is going to be opportunities to provide virtual connections to each school, and that could be from a variety of different events, and that's going to be something that we evolve into. And if there's school-wide celebrations or things that we can access, we'll certainly do that. But it's mostly going to be social emotional supports within the classroom. Then there's connecting and coordinating students with school counselors and as needed special education, EST. So all the normal supports that we would be receiving as a student or as a family for their child in the MMU USD educational experience, you would still receive that if you're in this virtual academy. It just will look a little bit different, as it will look a little bit different for even students enrolled in the hybrid model. And then there's the connection with family. So my goal is to be able to connect with each family and to maintain very open office hours to ensure that families have what they need, things are going well, and really just essentially problem solving and providing solutions and connecting the right people. For the registration, Jeff, feel free to chime in, but essentially the K-5 registration is all done through the VTVLC in a partnership with us locally. So the VTVLC will do all the registration. There's not a need to go on their website to do any type of enrollment. When we sent out a survey not long ago selecting hybrid or virtual learning, that was our soft enrollment. principals have been confirming that with cold calling families and just ensuring that a family was in fact choosing the 100% virtual academy learning option. And I will be sending an email to confirm that as well. But we will take a list of all the confirmed families or students, and we will be giving that to the VTVLC to enroll them in ELA, math, science, and social studies. And then those are the core content areas. And right now, physical education is available through the VTVLC, and then an elective. And the electives can range from maybe there might be a world language, maybe Spanish, tech. Jeff, I'll let you chime in if there's anything you want to say about the electives.
Yep. So again, technology, perhaps world language, personal fitness, and I believe, art was the other course that would be available as an elective. I will add one more thing in terms of the registration. Parents will also be added to each course as an observer, so you will be able to access and see all of the feedback that teachers provide to your child within the curriculum. You'll have access to the curriculum and all the information that's in there, like the pace charts, parent resource guides, etc. So you will be able to follow along with your child and be able to see all of the communication that's taking place back and forth on the assessments between your teacher and your child, and have access to the teachers as well.
Great, thank you, Jeff. So moving on to the enrollment, we are asking families to consider it through the lens of a year-long option. Of course, that's always the hope, is we want to keep things sustainable, but we totally understand that we're living in unprecedented times that are constantly changing. So this is something that if you elect to join the virtual academy and for some reason it's not working or your family situation changes, you can transition back to the MMU USD school that your child came from, or transition into the VTVLC if you were not previously enrolled in the program. This is done on a semester basis, so VTVLC has 2 semesters, a fall semester and a spring semester, and I believe, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, the semester date where that is still under consideration. I think they're waiting to get all the school coordinators together, the district coordinators, to determine when that open enrollment will open up. Is that correct, Jeff?
Exactly. In our first meeting for the school coordinators, we will take a consensus in terms of when that process will start for students that participated in the fall virtual academy. Will be able to have priority enrollment for the spring. And then if there's any capacity for students to be able to switch either into the hybrid model or into the virtual academy option.
Great. So as I said before, I'm planning to send out an email that will be confirming enrollment and welcoming families. We set the deadline to August 17th, and that's based on what's VTVLC's capacity for what they need for enrollment. And I will be sending an email approximately on the 21st to families that have confirmed, and there will still be an option for them to say, no, I didn't mean to click that button. But expect that you will get an email from myself August 21st. And that's essentially the presentation for the overview. I'd just like to, before we enter into the town hall, I just want to mention that we created a website, and you can find it on within our existing website under, I believe it's Reopening Schools. And it essentially is a warehouse for all the information that's from the VTVLC. And since the VTVLC is just taking on very recently the K through 6, K through 5, we wanted to be able to have that information available to families to click through. So that's always a great resource to check out. And we have a frequently asked question document that we will continue to update in any questions tonight that we don't get to and we're unable to answer, because I want to be very respectful of Jeff's time as well as everyone else. But we're going to try to go just a little past 6 o'clock because we got into this a little bit late by like 3 to 5 minutes. So I'm going to open it up for the town hall and start going through the questions. So the first question is a true psychology services as well. So I believe this was asking if psychology services will be offered. I can answer that and say that any support that a student needs, we will be providing within the MMU USD district. How will students be signing up for classes and electives? Jeff, I think that'd be a good one for you.
Yep, great. So for all K-5 students, they will automatically be enrolled in science, math, social studies, and language arts. We, at this time, also will be enrolling students in personal fitness, or PE. In addition to that, students will have the option to take an additional elective, if you will, or UA course. And most of that work will be done in collaboration with MMU, the Virtual Academy, and those student registrations we will upload into our system as a what we call a bulk upload. So you'll be receiving welcome emails. The registration verification will go out to you after your child or children are loaded into the system and the accounts have been created. So whatever information that Ben is going to need at the Virtual Academy level, he will take care of and make sure that he passes along to us in that bulk upload registration format once you confirm what your participation will be.
How will families that do not have access to printers get support with materials? That's a great question. I can answer that and then let Jeff answer for how that's operated in other districts. But similar to, we want students that are enrolled in this virtual option to have everything they need to be able to succeed. So we would ask that, families, when I'm making contact with families, if there's things that they just don't have access to, those are conversations that will take place then. And of course, we're getting devices for families that need it. And a part of that is we want to ensure that families have everything they need, with the caveat that there is certain information such as printing out of materials that we wouldn't have the capacity to do, but if a family is in need, of course, we want to help and support families. So that goes the same for Wi-Fi. We have a process for if a family does not have Wi-Fi and they need to access the internet, we have a process for that. And so I see that printers would fall into a very similar category. Jeff, do you want to speak to that in other districts?
Yep, I would echo what you just said, Ben. It really is based on a case-by-case basis in terms of what the family's need is, what resources they have. If they don't have printers, some school districts are accommodating them by printing out the booklets for either for a quarter or the semester in each one of the courses, but it really depends on individual need. There's a balance between being able to print it yourself just in time because of the pacing for your child. A lot of the pages they have different activities and project-based learning activities, so they end up getting cut out, they get pasted together, taped together. So it really depends on the individual pages that your child will need to have. I will say, just as a heads up, a lot of the pages do need to be printed out single-sided because they do get cut up and they do get used to tape together for different projects. So no double-sided printing is required for these.
Great, thank you, Jeff. What interaction will our kids have with other students in their grade through this program? So for students that are enrolled in the Virtual Academy program, as it stands right now, and I'll let Jeff answer this, they're in a self-contained digital classroom. So they will be able to participate in virtual morning meetings, time with their peers, and as I said before, we're trying to accommodate classrooms with primarily MMU USD educators and also primarily MMU USD students. So even though some of the students may be a mixture from across our schools, and so we'll take second grade, for example, it might be JES, RES, UCS, Brewster Pierce, Smiley. It's a big mixture. They'll all be working together in that online environment. And I'm not sure entirely if the VTVLC has anything else outside of that, but I'll let you respond to that as well.
Sure. And as I stated when I was going over the content, Teachers will be doing group sessions to kind of overview content and talk about the lesson in a particular content area. Families can anticipate that might run 20 to 30 minutes as a video conference that the teacher does. During that time frame, they may provide an opportunity for students to interact. The rest of the time, students would be doing the one-on-one sessions with their teachers. If students are involved in a homeroom or an advisory, they would also have the opportunity to interact with each other in that capacity as well. But other than that, all of the other work based on grade appropriate participation. I think there might be some discussion forums involved. I know there is at the middle school level and high school level, obviously. But for the elementary school level, there may be a few discussion forums where students can interact at the 5th grade level.
Great, thanks, Jeff. How independently or not do you think K-5 students can navigate this platform and the content? Jeff, I'll give that one to you.
So our assistant director and principal has a daughter in 1st grade. And the first thing we did when we started working with Florida Virtual School Content is she set a 1st grade language arts course up for her child, gave her minimal information in terms of logging in and accessing the homepage. And within minutes, her daughter was going through the course, printing out materials, and navigating with the speech tools and the text-to-speech tools. So I think by and large, most parents, especially from 2nd grade up, are really going to spend most of their time making sure that the students, if there's an internet issue, being able to get the students logged in. I would assume, Ben, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there will be some local technical support. If a student is trying to log in, they can reach out, call, find out, I'm not really sure, is the Canvas is down or some other issues. I haven't heard from my, teacher. Those are the kind of issues where I believe parents can reach out and say, I'm having problems logging in. Maybe my child forgot their password. So in those instances, parents would need to be involved. But within the first 2 to 3 weeks, and this is fairly typical, if you think about a child transitioning from, say, elementary school to middle school, there's that initial 2 to 4 week period where students are trying to figure out, how do I get my lunch? Where's the restrooms? How do I navigate to a different classroom or to art class? And those are the same, considerations that students are going to have in the online classroom. It's a new learning environment, but because every class is very consistent, students learn to find things very quickly. And within the first few days, students are really able to navigate the courses without a whole lot of additional supports from parents.
Thank you, Jeff. How closely does the curriculum mirror the curriculum taught in the hybrid model? So Jeff, since you're not entirely familiar with our curriculum, maybe you could speak to what you know of our curriculum and also maybe other districts.
Yeah, so what we're finding is obviously there's going to be some disparities between content that local teachers are developing themselves and the different activities that they can do where there is a hybrid approach. So the students are actually in the classroom for a couple of days each week, and then they're off campus. There's a very different workflow. We call that blended learning. There's a very different workflow that teachers can have with their students. In a fully remote option, it's really about making sure that students have all of the resources available to them. These courses are tied to national standards, whether it be Common Core state standards or Next Gen Science standards. The curriculum is one of the things that we really enjoy in working with and using Florida Virtual School Curriculum, which incidentally is a public school in Florida. They came into existence in 1997. And when I created VTVLC, I immediately looked for the best online content provider that was available. And Florida Virtual still to this day remains an amazing partner in the development of online content that's pedagogically sound, built to national standards, and really encompasses all of the learning proficiencies that students are going to need to learn that are age and grade appropriate. One thing that I will add is that students in the online learning environment learn 2 things by default that they may or may not learn by default in a brick and mortar environment. And those relate to the transferable skills that students are also looking at developing in addition to content knowledge. So in an online learning environment, those two skills are communication. So students are using a variety of different communication technology like video conferencing, text, feedback, emails, and the other tool and proficiency that students are really gaining when it pertains to transferable skills really relates to self-direction, being able to navigate and be an independent learner. This really pays dividends for students that we see at the middle school and high school level and beyond that have built those skills to become successful online learners and be able to collaborate with others from a distance for the purpose of learning. 1 in 4 college courses pre-pandemic, 1 in 4 college courses are taken by students in an online format, and 50% of all industry-related training, again pre-pandemic, is done in an online learning environment. So it really pays huge dividends, not just for learning content knowledge and developing proficiency with those standards, but also developing those skills so that students can become very proficient at online learning.
Great, thank you, Jeff. Is there flexibility with content to adjust for student understanding of content? Move ahead for those who are ahead. Jeff, I think this one will be best for you.
Yes, absolutely. And again, one of the strengths of online learning is the flexibility that it provides both to students, teachers, and families. We really try to work within what's called a 3-week window. And that 3-week window allows the students that want to move ahead a little bit the flexibility to be able to do that. It allows the students that need a little bit additional time with their teachers to get develop better proficiency with content standards, to kind of lag behind a little bit and receive those additional supports. And the teacher, working with a core group of the students, tries to keep everybody on a constant pace to be able to finish the course by the end of the semester. So again, with a common pace chart, but the flexibility to work plus or minus a week on either side really provides a 3-week window that students and families can benefit from when it comes to the additional supports that they need to develop that proficiency.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Will there be any option for children in the Spanish immersion program to participate in the full virtual option? Jeff, I can take this one. So for our Spanish immersion program, we don't have an option built into the virtual academy. We are doing our best to create accommodations within Spanish immersion, and more information about that will be released in the near future. So I would say no to the virtual academy option, but we are working on accommodations locally for families. How closely does this curriculum mirror the curriculum taught in the hybrid model? I think that one we've already addressed. Will this platform be used if we need to close in-person teaching? So this platform is not the platform that will be used if we are to close in-person teaching. We are asking families to make a choice, essentially, that if you would like to participate in a totally 100% virtual option, then this is the time to choose that. And if not, then we are offering the hybrid model, which could go both ways depending on which step, which phase we are based on the guidance from the Agency of Education. I will say that as we get to the first semester, there is an opportunity for families that are already enrolled in their school to make a choice to move into the virtual academy, just as there's an option for families that are in the virtual academy to move out. We ask that families consider that thoughtfully based on their family situation as well as the continuity for their children, but ultimately that will be an option available to families. Would it be possible to work offline for all courses for most of the content, engaging only for one-to-one teacher check-ins in classroom group meetings? Jeff, I'm going to give this one to you.
Yeah, as you saw with the content, the short answer is no. There is a great balance between the online activities for students that have been developed to help students build proficiency and confidence with the knowledge standards. Great balance between the online engagement and opportunities to develop that proficiency, as well as the offline project-based learning activities that the students are doing. And again, it depends on grade level, but typically 2 to 3 hours per week total, of which about half could be devoted to an offline amount of work for each content area is about the average. So it's a great balance, again, age appropriate, to not necessarily, to limit the amount of time that students are spending in front of screens, but also being able to provide those activities to get them up, away from the computer, working with their hands, out in nature, and a great balance and mix in terms of the time commitments that students would be actually working on the computer. So short answer is no, students would not be able to spend a majority of the time away from the computer, but certainly there is a good age-appropriate balance based on the grade level.
Great, thank you, Jeff. Would it be, can you talk more about the classroom group meetings? Jeff, I think that's probably you again.
Yep, sure. So the classroom meetings, and again, depending on what model your teacher chooses, our recommendation to support teachers in their virtual academy classrooms is that they limit content meetings to once per day over the course of the week. So again, it might be a 30-minute presentation or lesson on mathematics on Monday, could be a 30-minute presentation in classwork synchronously that they would do on Tuesday in language arts over the course of the week. So looking at those synchronous sessions as a group to really try to limit that down to 20 to 30 minutes where possible each day. But in addition to those group activities, again, teachers will be spending one-on-one time with each student at least every other day to be able to provide direct instruction and supports to improve student proficiency in each of the course standards.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Will there be an option to change virtual learning as things change with the pandemic? Of course. So that is the clarification that we made, that it will be possible to either enroll or unenroll after the first semester. So that's how the enrollment works through the VTVLC. So after the semester ends, or it's getting close to ending, that's when the open enrollment would start again. What does the technology elective include? Jeff, I'm going to give that one to you.
Yep, that's a great question. So again, depending on the grade level, each class would be a little bit different, but in terms of just a basic example, so it's really designed to help students understand technology, ethics, making digital decisions about appropriate use and acceptable use with computer devices, being a good tech detective. So a little bit of information about, for instance, rules in our community, solving a problem using steps, looking at sequential thinking. So it really is not only an introduction to using technology and developing further proficiency with the use of technology devices, but also about thinking about the basics of programming, things like algorithms and sequencing and thought process and spelling out specific steps. So it also introduces to a great introduction to computer programming as well.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Can multiple parents / caregivers or special educators be added to a student? I'll answer the first part or the second part, Jeff. So special educators will have access to students on their caseload and be able to access their profile and their all the information that's getting put in there. But Jeff, I'll let you answer the multiple parents.
Yes, absolutely. So parents can have what's called an observer account, as I stated earlier, and multiple parents can have observer accounts tied to a single student or students. In addition to the web-based access, and I maybe should have mentioned this a little bit earlier, in addition to the web access, there's also a Canvas app for parents. And the Canvas app is a downloadable application that you can put to your phone, both Android and iOS, so that you can overview, again, the feedback from teachers, check your students' grades, and be able to see some of the basic content that's in the course. Very useful tool for parents who don't necessarily have the time to sit down and log into a computer to check their child's grades or to go through and look at the course content. And you can also set up notifications. So, For instance, when a new grade is posted for your child, you can decide whether you want to get that right away, whether you want to wait till the end of the day and get kind of a daily archive, or if you just want a weekly archive sent to your phone as a message. So variety of different opportunities for those observer accounts. Short answer, yes, absolutely multiple parents can have access as observers.
Thank you, Jeff. Will the virtual academy be just with other students in child's grade/town or across the district? Can they attend their building-based online morning meetings? Great question. So as I said, for K-5, the morning meetings would happen from the educator that's in the digital classroom. So it would not be, if a student is coming from JES, they would not be having morning meeting with the JES classroom because they're going to have their own self-contained classroom within the virtual academy. The answer is different for grades 6 to 8, but for K to 5, and I say 5th grade because this virtual academy inclusive online classroom is for up to 5th grade. It would be with the dedicated VT/VLC educator that's in that virtual academy. Will the interaction with teachers be done via written messages, video, sound, or mixture? Jeff, I'll give this one to you.
The short answer is the easiest. Yes, all the above. And what's great is that teachers can actually, even for assessment items, normally, teachers might give written feedback onto assignments. Within the Canvas learning management system, teachers can not only provide written feedback to students to improve, they can do markups on documents like Google Docs and PDFs and images. So for instance, if you're taking a picture of a child's project and that gets uploaded as their assignment, teachers can highlight and comment and mark up on it. But teachers can also give both audio and video feedback right within the gradebook to students. And students love to get video feedback from their teachers, kind of overviewing feedback on a project or telling them how to improve for a reassessment.
When does the fall semester end if we choose to make a switch? As I said before, that's something that the coordinators for each district are going to be determining with the VT/VLC, but I think it would be safe, Jeff, around December, you think?
Yeah, so typically the first semester would end either immediately before or just after the winter break, which would be sometime in either the beginning of January or towards the end of December. Probably several weeks before that, again, as Ben said, determined by consensus for all of the school coordinators. There will be several weeks leeway in order to notify parents to start thinking about whether or not they would want to transition either back into the hybrid model or continue on with priority consideration for the spring enrollment.
Great, thank you, Jeff. Are students on a set daily schedule, or is it set up that students are working through their weekly curriculum on their own schedule? Jeff, I think you answered this, but I'll let you address it probably briefly.
Yeah, even though their weekly chunk of work is outlined really clearly in the PACE chart, students have a lot of flexibility, except for the synchronous sessions. So for instance, if your teacher says we're going to meet every day at 10 o'clock, for instance, and usually they will check with families to make sure that those times are convenient for all of their students and their families. But other than the synchronous meetings, which would consist of the daily meetings and a one-to-one session with your teacher, you really have flexibility to have students do work at any time of the day. For instance, I know in the high school classes, we have students that work on their classes 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. A lot of students do a lot of work on the weekends. It just depends on the individual student needs and family needs. Now, obviously, at the elementary level, one of the best practices that we can let parents know about is really providing a dedicated work area for students, whether it be the kitchen table or whether it be a desk set up in the living room or the study. Really providing that consistent place for students to be able to do their work consistently. That's not project based, but accessing the computer is a best practice. Another best practice would be to develop routines with your children. So if the time of day that works best for the student and for the family in terms of internet access and other resources and parents' time that may need to help their child get logged in. It may be that every day at 9:30 in the morning is login time, and then there's the class meeting, and then there's lunch, and then additional project-based learning time that the students can do offline in the afternoons. Again, each family is able to set using some of the suggested schedules, but totally what works for them and works for their child each day over the course of the week.
All right, so we have noted in the chat that all questions that from that point on go into the chat. We're going to answer in a follow-up frequently asked question document, but we're going to go through the rest of the questions that came before that point. So the next question is, will MMU-USD students have the MMU-USD teachers in the academy? So for K-5, as I said, I am highly confident that we're going to be able to have totally MMU-USD educators for that core content classroom, the inclusive classroom. The UA electives, that's of course going to be through a educator in Vermont that's a part of the VT-VLC network. But I do just always have to give the caveat that this is based on enrollment. So we never truly know until we have the actual enrollment numbers. But at this point, I'm feeling very, very confident. I've said confident a lot in this meeting. Are those virtual meetings with their original assigned teacher from in-person or just their online class? I'm just going to read that. Are those virtual meetings with their original assigned teacher from in-person or their, I'm going to say that that's probably asking about the virtual morning meetings, and we answered that that's going to be with the virtual academy teacher for that digital classroom. Does the program start on 9/8, September 8th, and follow the same vacation/time off schedule as they're sending school? Jeff, I think you can actually answer that one.
Yeah, so the timeline is to start on the 8th of September and follow the schedule along with vacations for what the local schools would be following. The difference is virtual academy, no snow days, don't have to worry about in-service days, don't have to worry about changing from remote to hybrid. So there is consistency in terms of what that schedule is going to look like. The first couple of weeks also are specifically designed to slowly ramp up so students can acclimate to the online learning environment. There's different activities that the students are going to be doing those first couple of weeks, but it really takes the onboarding process somewhat slow, great orientation, and gives families the chance to, again, just find their ways around the online learning environment, the platform, and how to meet with their teacher, how to schedule things, and how to upload assignments.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Is there an estimate of the amount of time a first grade parent will need to dedicate to the course? That's for you, Jeff.
Yes, and so again, I think the first week or two, as you're making sure that your child can get logged in, that you've printed out the parent resources and the parent guide, made sure that your child's got all of the materials that they're going to need for some of the projects. The amount of time that you'd actually be spending supporting your child within the learning platform would be greatly reduced after the first 2 or 3 weeks. So on average, again, it's the login time, setting up the synchronous activities, and if your child, once they're comfortable with the technology and being able to navigate, you're really talking about maybe supporting them and observing them while they're cutting out some of the project-based learning activities. Maybe that you need to help them take a picture with your phone to be able to upload that in the assignments. So that would really be different examples that you would need over the course of the week to be able to help your child. But again, because of the flexibility in scheduling, it's much more, it provides much more flexibility for parents to be able to dedicate what time that is needed at a time that works best for the family.
All right. I noticed at the Florida Virtual Learning, so the FLVS students need a Google Drive account. Will MMU-USD be giving remote students an account so they can access Google Drive? Currently, younger children don't have access. Jeff, I'm going to let you answer that one, and I can fill in the gaps if you have questions for me.
Yeah, I think whatever Google requirements, again, age appropriate based on local district policies and guidelines would be provided. I don't think it's necessary for all students to have a Google Drive. That really just helps facilitate if a district is using Chromebooks and they're using Google domain for students to be able to use their Google Docs to be able to submit assignments. There's direct integration with Canvas to be able to do that. But again, not all schools are Google schools and use Google domains.
Okay, so I just add on that we would follow the current systems and practices that we do for that age level, and as from what Jeff said, they work with our current policies and procedures. Has this been used with K-5 students before? Jeff, that's definitely for you.
Yes. So Florida Virtual started creating the K-5 content about 3 years ago. And whenever they develop content anew, they use in their state first for 2 years. Once they've used it for 2 years, they open it up for other states to be able to license and use. So we're among about 20 other states using this content now in its third year. All the bugs have been worked out, and we're just super excited. We joined a long list of states that are very eagerly awaited the deployment of this content. So it is new to us, but again, this is the third year that the courses have been reworked and reevaluated. So we're very excited.
For making a decision, when will we know more about the hybrid option will look like? Will it be available before the 8/17 deadline? So I would say that we set the deadline to August 17th. Each school provided information regarding what the general schedule for the hybrid model will look like. I would ask that if families have specific questions related to the details of the hybrid schedule, they can contact their building principals, and we'll certainly communicate that again at the district happenings. But there is the schedules are provided previously in the last district happenings. But if you need more details, of course, please contact your building principals so that they can provide those details. How is that possible with time? Okay, so that I think it was a follow-up question. So I would I think we answered that. We're really trying to, this is a system that is based on the VT-VLC, and they're working with other districts. So enrollment is essential for all of our systems. So I would say that if you are on the fence for the virtual option, you can absolutely send me an email. I'm really trying to be really quick on those. And we also are continuing to add those questions and answers to the frequently asked questions document. But we would definitely want to give you all the information you need to be able to make a decision. What if the time of the synchronous learning does not work for a family? Are the meetings recorded to be accessed at a different time of the day? Jeff, I'm going to let you answer that one.
Yep, that's actually a really great question. So there's two parts to my answer. The first is that teachers, when they set up what those synchronous times are going to be, they really try to get consensus from all of their students and their families to make sure that the times that they schedule those synchronous sessions are easily accessed by all the students. Now, with that said, there may be a dentist appointment or there may be something else that might be going on that a family can't make it to those synchronous sessions. We actually recommend for teachers not to record class sessions when there's a variety of students present. What we do recommend is that teachers provide screencasts to overview if any students are missing. They can just do a short video kind of overviewing the concepts and or schedule an additional one-to-one meeting with the student to go over any information that might have been lost. But again, the benefit to having those group meetings is part of the social emotional learning that takes place when students get to work together, see each other, and be able to meet with their peers.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Are the modules audio enabled so that system can read the information to the students? Jeff, I believe you answered this. So is there anything else you want to add to that?
Yes. No. All of the courses, all content areas, even the specials, have that special text to speech feature that actually has the highlighted text that reads along with it. In addition, there's a pictorial dictionary as well as a word dictionary for any words that the students may not know or recognize.
Okay, thank you. Can you talk more about accreditation? Why did it take COVID to get approval? Where else was this approach acquired for the age group before COVID?
Want me to take that, Ben?
Yes, I'm sorry. I had a tickle in my throat, but I meant to say this is for you.
Yeah, no, an amazing question. Thank you so much. Because, again, we've been doing online learning in the state of Vermont, VTVLC, since 2009. Long before flexible pathways was even introduced as a learning option for students, as a virtual learning option. So I actually started online teaching back in 1997 when Blackboard first allowed teachers to have free online teaching accounts. So this model has been around in Vermont for 11 years, going on 12 years soon. And again, I'm very proud of the work that not only VTVLC has been able to do, but also the partnerships that we've had with schools during that time frame. We are a cooperative partnership model. So at the high school level, traditionally, if a student took, for instance, AP Calculus, they were actually taking a course from South Burlington High School. If they took a music composition class, they're actually taking a course from Springfield High School. So VTVLC has always worked off of a cooperative partnership. What's unique about this situation is that we have an opportunity to leverage some outstanding content and actually expand our role to support K-5 learning. So this is not just because of the pandemic. This is just one of those serendipitous moments where the right tools were in place at the right time to be able to solve a very complex problem. And as a parent, I can say I'm an empty nester now. My kids are much older. I have a great deal of empathy for the decisions that parents have to make in this day and age. It's a very difficult thought process. I can tell you I am in awe of the work that Ben has been doing. We collaborate several times a day, as I do with all of the districts, but Ben is really, you can be quite proud of the work that your district is doing to support your students, and kudos to Ben and the other staff and educational leaders at the district.
Well, gee, thank you, Jeff. I would say it's definitely a team lift. We have many people behind the scenes, including tonight, all the people that are in getting this information meeting to happen. So the next question was it was a common question, teach our students within the school day and reach out to virtual learners. I think they were asking if teachers were expected in the hybrid program to also be reaching out to the digital virtual academy students. And the answer to that is no, that all the meetings will be done through the virtual academy teachers. Will fifth graders have will fifth graders have a health/guidance class, band/chorus/music, access to library books, French/Spanish/Latin? Are these classes being offered to hybrid learning model? I'm going to give that one to you, Jeff. Not
to any slight on this. I think the question, if I'm interpreting it correctly, is really asking about the hybrid model, and whether those course offerings or options for students would be available at the local hybrid option. Is that?
Yeah, maybe I was reading through the lens of a virtual academy, or if those are being offered through the VTVLC. So I guess I can answer that. Are they offered from the school level to the virtual academy students? The answer to that for K-5, that would be no. We're really using the comprehensive program through the VTVLC, and they're going to be receiving PE as well as the elective. And I think, Jeff, they're speaking more to the elective choice, if I'm correct.
Yeah, but again, just for clarification, would your hybrid students not participating in the virtual academy, but the students locally be participating in band and some of those other activities that they're talking about? Just a comparative shot, maybe that's the question. Again, I'm reading into it a little bit, but
yeah, I think myself as well. So I would say that those students in the hybrid learning model, the way I'm reading it is that they would not have access to the VTVLC program unless they were actually enrolled into the virtual academy. So that's how I would answer that question. I'll definitely save that one for going into the frequently asked questions. Jeff, is there anything else you want to add to that question?
Well, we can put our heads together and come up with some more feedback on that one for the FAQ.
Yeah, agreed. And if if the owner of that question wants to reach out to me as well, that feel more than welcome to. Can students still be involved in outside fun activities such as fourth grade rocket launch and other events like that? That's a really great question. So part of my job is to really try to ensure that we're in the opportunities that are available to us, we can include other students. So what I can say, because I can't predict the future of the guidance and how that changes, but any opportunity that we can be able to fit into the schedule of a virtual academy student or make it available, we certainly will do our best to do that. So that is essentially a really amazing activity. So I would say we're going to do our best to make that happen. And Jeff, you can probably speak to what that looks like in other districts if you want to tag on to that question.
Yeah, I know one of the things that's super important is activities like that, really trying to keep the students engaged with the school community in any way that that is possible and feasible. Again, parents would select this fully remote option for a variety of reasons. And, depending on the activity, they may or may not choose to have their students participate, even if it wasn't made available. So it really depends on the individual community activity. But I recommend, again, while the weather's nice, or even when the weather starts to turn cooler, doing as many outdoor activities as possible, especially those that would be offered at the local schools.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. So that was the last question that was at the cutoff. So I would say that we are going to take any remaining questions and we're going to funnel that into the Ever Organic frequently asked question document. Then we'll provide that into the district happenings and we'll try to highlight those new questions so they're easy to find. But I would just like to close with saying thank you for everyone that was able to attend this meeting. There are many people that are involved in this whole process. On the questions, Kevin Hamilton, principal of Browns River Middle School, Jen Cote, the principal of UCS, Jeff Wallace, the director of technology and network engineering, and of course, Jeff Renard, the director and principal of the Vermont Virtual Learning Cooperative. So without those people, this would not be able to happen. So I would ask that if anyone has any additional questions, seeking information, please visit our website and also check out the FAQ that's within the website. And we'll continue to provide as much information as quickly as we can as things develop. And I would like to thank everyone for coming, and we will have this recorded for anyone that would like to view on a later date. So with that being said, have a great night, everyone.